What's happening, everybody? Monday, September 22nd, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Boy, you know, I'm away from the show for 3 days. I had a death in the family, so thank you, everyone, for all the well wishes. And thank you to all the boys who filled in for me. Thank you for that. It was sudden, but, everybody filled in as they always do. So I would thank everybody for that. But boy, did I miss some stuff. Boy, did I miss some stuff, because let me tell you guys something. As tragic as the death in the family was, as genuinely tragic as that always seems to be, it was also tragic that I did not get to share with you my opinions on the far less tragic loss of Jimmy Kimmel. So we're going to get into that today, because sometimes in politics you have to go against your principles. Sometimes you have to go against your principles in order to prove a point, and we're going to get into all of that. Also, obviously, we're going to get into everything that happened yesterday at the Charlie Kirk Memorial in Phoenix, in Scottsdale, Arizona. Scottsdale? Phoenix? One of those two. Wherever the Arizona Cardinals play. Absolutely incredible. Erica Kirk showed more grace than I come with. I certainly don't come with the amount of grace that she had on that day. Speeches from everybody from J.D. Vance, President Trump, Stephen Miller. Everybody who was anybody spoke at this thing, and it was absolutely incredible. Is this the turning point in America? I believe that it is. But we're going to get into all of that. We're also going to make fun of some of the worst people in America. We're going to talk about the Ivy Leagues and just how bad they actually are. But before we get started with all of that, guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out wherever it is you are watching from. Happy to see everybody again. It's been a while. It has been a while. What's up, Moose, our star? How we doing? Mabel, how are you? Nancy, how are you? Very good stuff. Hey, Eli, what's happening? What is happening? Donna Maltese watching on X. Teresa over on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, guys, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. Hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you hit the little @ symbol. And tag your friends so that we can get the show out to more people. Always good stuff. Always good stuff. Denise, thank you. I'm very happy to be back. Fireboss, how are you? Uncle Richie's in the chat. How are you doing, CQ? How are we doing? Before we get rocking, before we get rolling today, guys, do me a favor and head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this program and everything we've got going on over here. You guys can also use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. That's promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. If you've already got everything, hit that donate button at the very top. That is the best way to support this show. Giddy up. Let's go. What's up, Siobhan? How are you? Siobhan LaCastro in the chat. The mother of the kid who went viral again. What up, Liam? What's up to my little buddy? How are we doing? So, I'm going to start out the show with Jimmy Kimmel, because I've been itching to talk about this for quite some time. I've been talking, but it's been a few days. Haven't really gotten a chance to comment on Jimmy Kimmel, what all happened to him. Now, a few things here. I'm going to dispel some notions here that the federal government somehow played a role in Jimmy Kimmel being canceled or suspended or whatever the hell it may be. That's not what happened. Brandon Carr, I think, put his foot in his mouth a little bit, the FCC chair, when he said we can do things the easy way or the hard way. But I want to talk more about principles, because we on the right do believe in the concept of free speech. We absolutely do. And we don't believe that the government ought to be shutting down people for their speech, which is not what happened here. It just isn't. We're going to bare bones this, okay? We saw it with Colbert. The Colbert Show was losing CBS $40 million a year. $40 million a year. So, given the fact that Jimmy Kimmel probably has about the same operating budget, about the same viewership, same time slot, same sort of thing, it would be a reasonable estimate to say that it's somewhere in that ballpark. It would be a reasonable estimate to say that. Here's what happened with Jimmy Kimmel. At the end of the day, Disney, ABC Disney, was looking for a reason to dump out of this money pit. And Jimmy Kimmel, being the self-righteous asshole that he is, put his foot in his mouth and gave his boss every single opportunity imaginable to send him packing. That's exactly what happened. So the ABC affiliates, because your local ABC is not owned by ABC Disney. It's owned in part by that. It's owned by the network affiliates. That's why sometimes if you're on the West Coast, maybe you'll have CSI playing. And if you're in New York at the same time slot, maybe you'll get Criminal Minds. I don't know. Pick whatever network television show you may watch. Because each market is different. That's why, for example, if you're here on the East Coast, you're going to get the Giants game on Fox. But if you're on the West Coast, your West Coast team may be playing. You may not be able to get the same channels, the same shows every single place, because people on the West Coast don't care about the New York Giants, just like people on the East Coast don't care about the Los Angeles Rams. And many of the channels out there are owned by major media conglomerates like Sinclair Media, Nexstar. There's a whole slew of them out there. The reason this kicked off was because Nexstar said that our audiences in the markets we control do not want to hear from Jimmy Kimmel after he lied to his audience, claiming that Charlie Kirk's killer was a Trump supporter, which we obviously know that he wasn't. And because they knew that would hurt their bottom line, that would hurt their brand, that would hurt their ad sales, they chose not to show Jimmy Kimmel's show. Now, let's get to the free speech argument. I want to be clear. No one, literally nobody, not the federal government, not me, not you, not Nexstar, not Sinclair, not ABC, not Disney, has impeded Jimmy Kimmel's free speech. He's free to say whatever he wants, whenever he wants. When the founders set forth the idea and the principle of free speech, they did not say, well, you can have free speech, but you also have to have the freedom to be pumped into our television sets at all times. I do not have a right to a late-night comedy show. I wish I did, because if I did, I wouldn't need 17 writers to write an 8-minute monologue. I wouldn't need that, because I'm talented. I wouldn't need that sort of thing. I wouldn't need a staff of 200 people to run a show that's 42 minutes long. Do you know how I know that? Because I'm currently running a show that's 1 hour long, and I'm doing it with one person. Well, you know what? We'll lowball it. 3. Frankie and Eli. We don't need these sorts of things. So ABC Disney, seeing what's happening here. For example, I'll just give you a perfect example. If I were given Jimmy Kimmel's show right now, you could get rid of 80% of the staff and nobody would even notice. Nobody would notice. That's salaries, that's health care, that's probably child care. Wouldn't notice. You wouldn't even know. And as the media landscape is changing, so is the sorts of shows they are producing. Need a bigger example of this. ESPN. ESPN tried to put Pat McAfee on television. They did put Pat McAfee on television. That's a podcast that airs on ESPN. It's just about sports. It's Pat McAfee and a few producers. Now, don't get me wrong. If I had a producer sitting over here, if I had Frankie sitting over here, there are things that I could do that would enhance the show. Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt. But Jimmy Kimmel, having been on television for like 20 years, thinks that he's owed something. Moreover, his crazy-ass supporters, I don't know who they are, by the way. I've never, and I mean this, for my older audience out there, you'll understand this. Johnny Carson was must-watch television every night. Every night. David Letterman, Jay Leno, must-watch TV every night. We didn't watch Leno in my house because, well, quite frankly, he's another asshole, but we were fans of David Letterman. Every night we watched it. Every single night we watched David Letterman. And I laughed my ass off. I love David Letterman. He's a radical liberal, but he's funny as hell. I don't know one person who, if you were sitting around their house at 11 o'clock, was like, oh, guys, quick, change the channel. Quick, guys, Jimmy Kimmel is on. I don't know one person that did that. I'm not really even sure who's watching these shows anymore. But Jimmy Kimmel, being the self-righteous ass that he is, thinks that he's owed something. And I'm not really sure why. I think Jimmy Kimmel should use the freedom of speech, in which he still has, that no one has taken away from him, and start a podcast. This way he can operate in the marketplace the way we do. The way Don Lemon has to. Now that Don Lemon is not being propped up by CNN, he's now been relegated to do man-on-the-street interviews like some kind of college sophomore doing a J-School project. And his show is failing because he's talentless. I think Jimmy Kimmel should have to do a podcast out of his house. Now, there are some people in the legacy media who have done this, and it has worked. Both on the right and on the left. You've got Tucker, you've got Glenn Beck, you've got Megyn Kelly, Bill Maher. Excellent show. He has a bunch of people on. Club Random, it's called. Just him and another guy just talking for an hour. Sometimes he has people on I like, sometimes he doesn't. And it switches back and forth. The show Breaking Points, which I use on this program all the time. They broke away from the legacy media, and they have one of the most successful shows on the internet. And those two drive me crazier than anybody. It is possible to do this if you have talent. The problem is that most of the people on television don't. That's why all of them are interchangeable. And that includes places like Fox. I mean, look, there are some very talented people on Fox News, but let's be honest here. You could probably just subtract one hot blonde for another, and I don't really think the show would change all that much. Now, don't get me wrong. I like seeing them. I do. But they've been doing that for years, where they just cycle through hot blondes over and over and over again, and that's just their business model, and that's just the way things go. MSNBC does the exact same thing. Every once in a while, they sit back and they'll change out some person who looks like an angry lesbian for another person who looks like an angry lesbian. They did it with Rachel Maddow when they got rid of her and they put in another angry lesbian, Chris Hayes. It's not really challenging to do. But many people, like Kimmel, think that they're owed something by this world, and they're just not. So I would support Jimmy Kimmel using his free speech, using his ability to speak freely, and start a podcast where he has to sell gold, or hey, maybe Mike Lindell will give him a MyPillow code. I don't really know. But I'm curious to see where Jimmy Kimmel goes next. Part 2 of Jimmy Kimmel. Part 2. And this is the most important part. This is the most important part that I want to make sure that I get to. Kevin, it goes against our principles. It goes against our principles. Free speech, the idea of free speech, not the letter of the law, the very concept of it. And Jimmy Kimmel shouldn't be canceled because of something he said. We don't believe in cancel culture. No. No. I don't exist in that world. I don't exist in the concept of turning the other cheek. I don't. If you punch me in the face, I'm going to punch you back even harder. Maybe that's not a good quality I have. Maybe it's not. And if it's not, it's something I'm willing to accept. I'm willing to accept it's a character flaw in myself. I am. I watched as they laughed. as Trump got removed from Twitter. And they laughed as Tucker got removed from Fox. And they laughed when Megyn Kelly got removed from NBC for saying that she once dressed up as Diana Ross for Halloween. They laughed. And now that it's happening to them, I'm laughing too. And some people I admire greatly. Konstantin Kisin, for one, of trigonometry. Did this on a show the other day. Be careful. This will come back to roost. Ted Cruz said the exact same thing. Two people I like. And my message to them will be, I'll deal with it then. I'll deal with it then. Because a guy like Jimmy Kimmel, who interviewed 175 Democrats and one Republican over the course of the last several years, are not people you can be negotiated with. They're not people who will find the error of their ways. So when they get canceled, when they get the boot, I laugh. You know why? Because they would laugh at you. And you know how I know they would laugh at you? Because they did. Because they did laugh at you. They laughed at people like Meghan Murphy, who got kicked off Twitter way back when for saying men aren't women. They laughed as you lost your job for not taking the COVID vaccine that doesn't work. Matter of fact, Jimmy Kimmel said that if you don't get the COVID vaccine, you should be denied medical treatments at hospitals. So for all the people out there who are saying, be careful, Kev, because this is going to come back, I'll deal with it then. I will deal with it then. Naturally, the Democrats and their radical left lunatics out there, as President Trump calls them, are handling this with poise and grace. They're handling it with poise and grace. And they're saying, oh, look, Jimmy Kimmel shouldn't have said that. Jimmy Kimmel shouldn't have done these things, and he lied. And you know what? In the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, maybe some Democrats could take like 30 seconds before ratcheting the temperature up. No. Somebody decided to go to an ABC affiliate in Sacramento and shoot the place up.
A 64-year-old man named Hannibal Hernandez Santana has been arrested as the suspect in the shooting that led to an investigation here at ABC 10 in Sacramento along Broadway. And as the sun has risen this morning, you can see for yourself plywood over one of the windows in the lobby there. Now, earlier in the day on Friday, police were called here in response to shots fired from outside the ABC 10's building. No one was injured despite the building being occupied at the time. 3 bullet holes were seen in the window on the building's lobby, and that's when the investigation began. Later the same day, KCRA3 saw police in the River Park neighborhood, including SWAT teams. A witness at the scene reported seeing a man tackled and then taken into custody. Sacramento police thanked the FBI for providing resources in its investigation and have asked anyone with further information to contact their department.
Well, because that's how we all know, that's how Democrats rationalize things. Some weirdo out there is very, 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 he probably didn't even watch Jimmy Kimmel, he's just trying to do it to get famous, but a Sacramento man has been arrested after firing shots at an ABC affiliate for canceling Jimmy Kimmel. Annabelle Hernandez Santana was booked into the Sacramento jail over charges of assault with a deadly weapon, shooting into an occupied building, and negligent discharge of a firearm. Investigators are still trying to determine a motive. But when you look on the guy's Facebook page, when you look on the guy's Twitter account, all it is anti-Trump stuff. So a guy who is obsessed with his anti-Trump nonsense shoots up an ABC affiliate the day after ABC cancels Jimmy Kimmel for making a false claim about the Charlie Kirk shooting. The media, they still can't find a motive. They can't, I want to play a game of Clue with Democrats for money, because you could trace every single thing right back to them. It could be Colonel Mustard in the parlor with the candlestick, and they still won't be able to figure out where it's going. Why? Because they close their eyes to reality. Their willful neglect of the obvious. As a matter of fact, currently, a majority of Democrats still believe that the Charlie Kirk shooter was a MAGA supporter. because they cover their eyes. They don't want to see what is in front of them. And if anybody asks you what the definition of woke means, that's what the definition of woke is. It is ignoring reality because your arrogance tells you that you couldn't possibly be wrong. That's the definition of woke. Naturally, that's what this guy was. The shots came from a vehicle, drive-by, go figure. The station confirmed that somebody in the lobby, that there was somebody in the lobby during the shooting, but no injuries occurred, thank God. Wild stuff. Wild stuff. But hey, look, guys. A guy shoots up an ABC affiliate because he's pissed off that they got rid of Jimmy Kimmel for saying something ridiculous about Donald Trump. Instilling fear through violence over politics. Literally the definition of terrorism. So naturally, this guy was released with no bail. Naturally, he was released. I'm sorry, with bail. He was released. A Sacramento man was freed on bail after allegedly shooting up the ABC affiliate. Sacramento Police Department released him. Luckily, the FBI stepped in and picked him up. The raving anti-Trumper is on a federal hold and ineligible for release after Sacramento released him. After he shot up a building over politics in the same week that Charlie Kirk was assassinated over politics. I mean, they're just not getting it. They're just not getting it. There is a way out for them. There is a way out for Democrats. And if you watched Bill Maher this weekend, I don't have the clip pulled up, Senator Joe Manchin, old school Democrat, had the obvious answer. Just admit reality. Because when you admit reality, people come on board. J.D. Vance talked about that in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shooting.
Who grew up in a pretty normal family, actually had a pretty good home life, who was radicalized by the far left, by the social networks of the far left, by the ideas of the far left, and got so far down the path of radicalization that he killed my friend. That is not a both sides problem. My friend is dead because of left-wing political radicalization, and if you want to cut that out, then be honest about it and look yourself in the mirror.
Not hard. We're not asking them to move mountains. We're just asking them to think that maybe it's your fault. You know, Jordan Peterson has a famous line about unhappy people, okay? He says that if you meet 100 people and all of them are boring, it's not everyone else. If you go on 10 dates and none of the men you date you find interesting or intelligent or whatever, it's not them. Maybe you're the problem. Maybe it's you, Jasmine Crockett.
Well, on that note, I do want to turn to something that you heard the senator just say, which is he was talking about a resolution that came before the House this past week honoring Charlie Kirk. And there were 58 Democrats who voted against it. You were one.
Yeah.
Why?
Absolutely. You know what? One of the things I do want to point out that's not been laid out that honestly hurts my heart is when I saw the no votes, there were only 2 Caucasians. For the most part, the only people that voted no were people of color because the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk continuously put out there was rhetoric that specifically targeted people of color. And so it is unfortunate that even our colleagues could not see how harmful his rhetoric was specifically to us. And I can tell you that a month prior to him passing away, he had actually gotten out on his podcast. I wasn't aware of this at the time, but he got out there and he was talking negatively about me directly. So if there was any way that I was going to honor somebody who decided that they were just going to negatively talk about me and proclaim that I was somehow involved in the great white replacement, Yeah, I'm not honoring that kind of stuff, especially as a civil rights attorney and understanding how I got to Congress, knowing that there were people that died, people.
Let's play a little game here, because I could do Jasmine Crockett all day. We're going to play a little game. I'm going to go back in the interview, okay? Now, notice how Jasmine Crockett is talking. Notice how she's talking right now. Now let's see how she spoke last week.
Baby, because these people, they are crazy. Because they always talk about how Christian they is. Yeah, I don't know how many of them on that side are getting divorced because they getting caught up sleeping with their co-workers, staffers, interns, all the things. Yeah, you ain't got to believe me. Just go Google. You'll find some of it. I'm telling you. And the wives is being messy and petty. They putting it in the divorce. I'm like, ooh, that's got to be true because your lawyer would know that they going to lose it if they.
There was any way that I was going to honor somebody who decided that they were just going to negatively talk about me. And
I don't know. Can't put my finger on it. Something seems different. Now, that's obviously not the most important part of what this vile woman just said. I got to know. You know, it's impressive. And this is sometimes the anti-Israel people do this too. Not to turn this into like an Israel thing, because let's be honest, here's my 10-foot pole. Not touching that with. But the anti-Israel people do this too. Sometimes it makes me think that like someone bet the anti-Israel people. Somebody bet the anti-Israel people that they can't like work Israel into every single conversation no matter what. Like the Giants lost this week. It's like, yeah, the Giants lost. They're pretty bad. Not as bad as what Israel's doing. Like, it's like they try to work it in everywhere. You go out to dinner, and you're like, man, that food was really bad. Not as bad as what Israel's doing. That's what Jasmine Crockett does with race. It's like she tries to work it in to every single nook and cranny. So a white guy who's dating a tranny shoots a white Christian. And for some reason, when she gets asked about it, she just pivots directly to race. Which is an important lesson for most people, okay? Usually, almost, I would say 90% of the time, the first person to bring up race is the racist. I don't hate Jasmine Crockett because she's black. I don't hate her because she's a woman. I hate her because she's an asshole. Her race and her gender is totally irrelevant to me. Totally irrelevant to me. I don't dislike Ilhan Omar because she's a woman. I don't dislike her because she's an immigrant. I don't dislike her because she's a Muslim. I dislike her because she goes on TV and says stuff like this.
I just think it was the video where it called him Dr. Frankenstein and said his monster shot him through the neck. I mean, obviously this is a person, and looking at this is someone who was a husband and a father, and in the days after his shocking death, that happened as a result of his views, or it happened as a result as he was sharing his views publicly with people, that people found it jarring to hear such criticism of that in the immediate aftermath of
what
death.
I find jarring is that there's so many people willing to excuse the most reprehensible things that he said, that they agree with that they're willing to have monuments for him, that they want to create a day to honor him, and that they want to produce resolutions in the House of Congress honoring his life and legacy. It is one thing to care about his life, because obviously so many people loved him, including his children and wife. But I am not going to sit here and be judged for not wanting to honor any legacy this man has left behind. That should be in the dustbin of history, and we should hopefully move on and forget the hate that he spewed every single day.
Get this woman out of the country. Get her out. We don't need her. Get her out. I don't care. Send her. You don't even got to send her back to Somalia. Send her to Toronto. I don't really care. The dustbin of history. Are you kidding me? 100 million. That is the number of times the Charlie Kirk Memorial was streamed yesterday. That is twice as much as any Super Bowl ever. That is 3 times as many viewers as the most watched television show of all time. The dustbin of history? Putting aside the fact that I would love to drop kick that woman for saying that, that's just incorrect. And it's when I said before that sometimes Democrats have to look within, that maybe they're the bad. Are they the baddies? Are they the baddies? I think so. And the American people are starting to notice. We'll get to that in 1 second. Before we do that, Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, understanding that you might be the problem is difficult, but you know it's not difficult switching banks over to oldglorybank.com, guys. Support the bank that supports your values, and make sure you lock in some of those interest rates before Jerome Powell either wakes up or gets fired, guys. Head on over to oldglorybank.com and support the bank that I use, with over 880 locations around the country that you can use almost anywhere at every Dollar General, Dollar Tree, or Target retailer, guys. Go to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. So even though Democrats cannot look within to see that maybe they're the problem, the American people are noticing that they are, in fact, the problem. And Democrats, as it stands right now, are absolutely cooked. And I want to be clear. The polling I'm going to show you came out before Charlie Kirk's death. Came out before his murder. Democrats are screwed, guys.
What do you think?
Yeah, what are we seeing? You know, Donald Trump being underwater, Democrats saying, oh, this guarantees us we're going to fly high in the midterms. Let me tell you, this guarantees you nothing, because at this particular point, the Democrats are the New Orleans Saints of political parties. What are we talking about? Trust the Dems or GOP more on the economy? Who leads on the economy? Republicans by 7. Immigration, Republicans by 13. How about crime, a big issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans? Look at that, lead by 22 points. So the bottom line is this. At this particular point, the ball may be on the ground, but the Democrats have not picked up the ball and running with it. If anything, at this particular point, it's the Republicans who are running with the ball on the top issues, the economy, immigration, and crime.
Give some context on this. Compare this when Republicans last took the House.
Yeah, let's compare it back to 2022. I think this kind of gives away the game right here. Okay, the GOP is more trusted than the Dems on the economy. It was 12 points in 2022. Slight decline in that lead, but still 7 points. How about immigration? It was Republicans by 3 back in 2022. Look at this. The Republican lead's actually gone up by 10 points. What are you doing, Democrats? My goodness gracious. And on crime, the Republicans were up by 13, and now they're up by 22. The lead, again, expanding by nearly double digits. So whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working, Kate. It ain't working. Republicans have the lead on all 3 issues.
What's the reason that you are finding so far that's driving this?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about the center of the electorate, right? You win with independents, you win overall. And what do we see right here among independents? Republicans still have a point lead on the economy. They got a 10-point lead on immigration. They got a 21-point lead on crime. The bottom line is, when you look at these numbers, Democrats should call their offices, because at this particular point, even if Republicans, or even if the public doesn't like what Donald Trump is doing, they ain't necessarily liking what Democrats are doing. And it ain't just a referendum on one party. You actually have to go out and beat that party. At this particular point, Democrats are not able to beat Republicans. They still
and again, this isn't as Donald Trump came into office. These are numbers from this month.
These are numbers from September of 2024. 5, we still find that the Republicans leading on all 3 of these issues. And, of course, this economy will be the key. If Democrats are going to win, they're going to have to likely win on the economy. At this particular point among independents, you see that 1-point lead for Republicans. And overall, at least according to the Washington Post, they hold a 7-point lead on the economy overall as well.
Now, look, I want to be clear. All that is great. It's all great. I love it. Don't get complacent. Get out, get active, get involved. Start organizations. Oh, really? Disney brought back Jimmy Kimmel. Who gives a shit? Let them spend their money. Plus, you know what's really funny? Yeah. So we're getting, let me pull this up real quick. Disney brings back Kimmel. That just broke this very minute. 2 hours ago. Disney reportedly working to bring back Jimmy Kimmel. 5 hours ago. Yes. It looks like it's taking over Twitter at the moment. They have brought back Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel. Let's see. Let's pop this. Do I have this here? Let's see. Latest. Disney announces Jimmy Kimmel Live will return on Tuesday. Well, first off, you know why this is funny? Because enough Democrats have canceled their Disney and Hulu subscriptions and they'll never get it back. No skin off my ass. What are you going to do? No big deal. But where was I? Let's get back to the important things. We may be leading in all the cultural figures, economy, crime, immigration. But we cannot get complacent because it is one thing to achieve power. It is a whole nother thing to hang on to it. So you guys, you got it. You guys, I will yell it from the rooftops on this show as loud as I possibly can for as long as I possibly can. You have to get active. You have to get involved. You have to. Get out there, register new voters, get engaged in the political process. Because if you don't, we will lose. Politics is all about momentum, and we've got the momentum right now, and we've got to do it. We've got to do what needs to be done. That's it. So we can take all the cultural landmarks, all the cultural hallmarks, all the polling, but unless we get active, we're going to be in serious trouble. Luckily, the boys are back. Luckily, the boys are back. What do I mean by that? Well, it turns out at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, which was, look, I could have done a whole show on this, and I'm actually trying to not talk about it because, you guys have all seen the clips. I'm sure many of you watched it on this network yesterday. Across other networks, it was absolutely amazing. I'm not trying to lose it again, so I'm not going to show the clips. But Erica Kirk was unbelievable. Everybody did a great job. Capacity arena, 100,000 people, absolutely spectacular. But another thing that happened there that kind of fell by the wayside were the boys have made up. The boys have made up as President Trump and Elon Musk have reunited at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. Here we go. Let's. Can I get this up here? There we go. Look at that. Look at the boys. The boys are back. I love it. Which I have a feeling, if you guys live in reality, you knew was going to happen at some point. Turns out you get 2 billionaires in a room and they're going to measure. They're going to have a problem with each other and they're going to fight. But it turns out they all got back together again. President Trump and former White House special government employee Elon Musk were seen chatting with one another at the Charlie Kirk Memorial in Arizona on Sunday. Charlie wanted so badly for these two men to get back together. I hope they're saying it to each other. For Charlie, said Andrew Colvett of Turning Point USA. the back and forth between Musk, we know that, very good stuff. But Benny Johnson shares a little intimate detail of what happened backstage when he spoke to Elon Musk about his time with Trump in the booth.
If we don't hang together, we will surely hang separately, which is exactly what Elon Musk told me. So backstage, Elon Musk embraces Erica Kirk, and she's crying in his arms, and they're hugging, and it's really profound. This was after the speeches. This was after the program. And this is the words that Elon Musk said to us in this small little group with Erica Kirk. And he said, this is why I was proud to sit with my president. That's what he called Trump, my president today. He accepted Trump's invitation to go up there, and the majority of the event, Elon Musk sent sitting there with Donald Trump, chewing it up. Everyone can see here's the photos of Elon embracing Erica, and then there are photos of Elon with Trump, and they seem to be having a great time. Dana White also there. What not only was the size and scope of this and the peacefulness of it a profound eulogy for Charlie and his memory, but the cornerstone of it all, to unite the world's most powerful, richest private civilian with the world's most powerful public figure, Donald Trump. Charlie said in this chair right here, he hoped that it happened. There's a clip that went viral yesterday. Charlie saying, I pray that Elon Musk and Donald Trump reconcile. And they did so at Charlie's funeral in Charlie's memory. Mm-hmm. A profound and beautiful example of what Charlie constantly was doing for our movement. And he fused together the greatest schism that we've seen in the nascent Trump administration. He just fixed Trump and Elon together. We saw it live. And it's like the power of Charlie crying out. I mean, after death, crying out, and like still the power of Charlie, like bringing together these tectonic forces that should not reconcile. These are two stubborn men. These are two men that don't need each other, honestly. But Elon Musk told me this. He hugs Erica Kirk. He looks to all of us and he goes, if we don't hang together, we will surely hang separately. So let us unite. I was proud to sit with my president tonight. That's what Elon told us. That's what Elon told us backstage. Wow. And so, again, just as a little behind-the-scenes vignette here, what you watched yesterday, what tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people saw yesterday, definitely hundreds of millions saw yesterday, was a beautiful encapsulation, eulogizing, and memorial to Charlie with his energy pulsing through every bit of it.
That's probably one of my favorite quotes in American history. For those of you who don't know it, it was following the receiving of the Olive Branch petition from the First Continental Congress to the Second Continental Congress to King George in 1775 when they professed that they were going to announce their independence. And King George sent back his response saying that any traitors to the crown in the American colonies would be punished by death. Benjamin Franklin very famously left the room that day and discussed with the rest of the founding fathers and said those words: we must all hang together, or most assuredly we will all hang separately. It's time to unite. A defining moment in the birth of this nation, and a defining moment in the reawakening of this nation. And I'm happy to see it. It's not about what you think about Elon. It's not what you think about Trump. It's none of that. It is the inventor of our time, the creator of our time, coming together with the most powerful man in the world to do good things. That's what it's about. There's very few people in the world who can do what Elon Musk does. And the left has enough billionaires. To be clear, they have almost all of them. 9 of the 10 richest counties in the country. 82% of tech CEOs. Every one of our elite institutions, which we're going to get to in a second. The media, Hollywood. But every day we claw a little bit more back. Every day we crawl a little bit more back. The fight is not over. The fight will never end. We must keep pushing. We must keep going forward and forward and forward, and seeing Elon and Trump get back together again is just one step in that direction. Guys, we'll be back in 1 second. Speaking of our elite institutions, before that, Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com. Promo code LOUD for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. So, over the last week or so, since Charlie Kirk's death, we've heard a lot of talk about both sides. And both sides do this, and both sides have violence, and both sides, and we get a bunch of crap left, right, and center. Of course, they ignore the fact that some random guy decided to shoot up a wedding in Manchester, New Hampshire, while yelling Free Palestine. I'm not sure what killing someone at a wedding has to do with Palestine, but that's not really the point. Sure, they ignore the fact that a radical leftist shot up an ABC studio. How funny is that? How funny is that? The guy shot an ABC affiliate station to protest Jimmy Kimmel being fired. Now this guy is going to do like 10, 15 years in jail. And Jimmy Kimmel got his show back. Imagine being that dumbass. Oh, man. It was so funny with all the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, because I said it on Twitter and it really outraged people. I said that all of you are out there protesting for Jimmy Kimmel, a man who wouldn't pee on you if you were on fire. And I just found that to be really funny. But when we talk about this both sides, I had to get that one in there. We've been hearing a lot about the idea of both sides. Both sides do this, both sides do that. Both sides have political violence. Well, Emily Jasinski of, she hosts like 12 shows. I don't even know which one this was. Emily Jasinski breaks down a study from the Federalist looking at elite institutions and how they handled the Charlie Kirk assassination and how they handled the death of that junkie in Minnesota who put a gun against a pregnant woman's stomach, the Floyd guy. Check this out, because I think this is pretty interesting.
Because this gets into the class dynamics as well. The Federalist wrote an article where they contacted, quote, Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Penn, Cornell, Brown, Columbia, Dartmouth to ask what, if any, resources had been provided to students in the wake of Kirk's death. None answered the Federalist's inquiries. However, a search of each Ivy League school's website revealed that none of them released a unique public statement condemning or even addressing Kirk's assassination, like they did after George Floyd's death. Many colleges and universities highlighted support for students following George Floyd's death in 2020. So, Batya, that brings us back to a point of contrast. If we put ourselves back in May, well, I guess it would have been June 2020, you had elite universities falling over themselves in order to make it known. They were all over the George Floyd case, but those same elite universities are not putting, an ounce of that energy comparatively into making sure, falling over themselves to reach out and make it known they're tackling what happened to Charlie Kirk on a college campus, exercising speech that is actually completely inherent to the mission of some of these elite schools. And I don't know what to make of all. I mean, I know what to make of all of it, but it's all, there's so many crossed lines and boundaries. And I'm curious, as somebody who is very much of both worlds, what you've made of this really difficult moment.
Oh God, it's so depressing. I find even in the Democrats' attempts to, take down the temperature and seek unity, I find them all so offensive because they keep saying both sides have this problem, which is effectively asking the right to bear 50% of the burden of a crime committed against themselves, right? Even though it's not true. I mean, we've all been around for the last 5 years. The vast majority of political violence, certainly in the last 5 years, has come from the right and from the left. And by vast, I mean obviously 90%. And every example that they bring of right-wing violence breaks down, like it crumbles. Like Josh Shapiro, they'll say, oh, they tried to assassinate Josh Shapiro. Yeah, the person who tried to assassinate Josh Shapiro was a Free Palestine freak who attacked Josh Shapiro because he was a Jew, not because he was a Democrat. The two state senators from Minnesota murdered by Tim Walz appointee who wrote a confession letter for the FBI in which he said, I did it because Tim Walz told me to. So obviously mentally ill, but also supplied a motive that was not right-wing ideology, right? And if you go through each of these examples, they crumble. So then they go to the statistics, and you look at the statistics, you look at the data, and the data doesn't include any violence from the BLM riots in which I believe 100 people were killed. It's just ridiculous. The gaslighting is insane. The reversal, as we talked about, of victim and
so much to break down there. Number one, when they say there's no political violence on the left, or they both sides, that kind of thing, they don't include BLM violence in which 100 people were killed. You guys remember David Dorn? Yeah. They didn't count him. They didn't count him at all. They didn't count the two kids who died in the Chaz Chop. No, they didn't count that at all. They didn't count the Atlanta BLM crew that set fire to the Atlanta police facility. Nope, they didn't include any of that stuff. Nope, none of that at all. So yeah, it turns out you can find studies to say what you want when you skew the way you take the studies. But let's move to the beginning of that. Not a single college, not a single major elite institution in America even put out a statement about Charlie Kirk's death. Meanwhile, they, as Emily Jasinski said, they fell all over themselves to mourn the death of George Floyd. Why? I don't know. Are they dumb? I don't think they are. I think they're afraid. And you know what? Somehow that's way more shameful. That is exceedingly more shameful. But some people out there aren't afraid. And we're going to talk about what Republicans need to do right after the break. We got about 5 minutes left before we get to that. Here's Jeremy.
Hey everyone, sorry to barge in like this, but I do want to talk to you about this opportunity for 45% off of everyday dose coffee. And this isn't just your regular coffee, folks. If you're like me, you love your coffee routine. I've loved my coffee routine since I was probably 16 years old. Unfortunately, as I've gotten older, some of the coffee that I love doesn't love me back and does cause bloating, does cause jitters, can only drink so much a day, and there's really only so much I can do with it. Now, everyday dose is known as coffee plus benefits. And what I mean by that, folks, is A, there is an ingredients booklet in there that gives you a ton of different recipes on how to make cold brew coffees of all different kinds, lattes, different hot coffees, and more. But the greatest thing about Everyday Dose is it is known as coffee plus benefits, meaning that you're going to have 100% Arabica coffee, and you're going to also have lion's mane, chaga, collagen protein, and nootropics that keep your brain focused. No jitters, no heart palpitations, and a ton of different recipes. And you're going to get a frother, a tumbler, a box set with a bunch of different gifts in it, an ingredients booklet for recipes, coffee, and more for only $27, folks. 45% off by going to everydaydose.com/LFATV. That's everydaydose.com/LFATV. Why not expand your experiences with coffee? That's everydaydose.com/LFATV.
So, guys, here's what we need to do. We need to be ready. We need to be armed with the knowledge. And we need to come out swinging. That's what has to happen. The colleges don't care. The media doesn't care, as we just learned by them reinstating Jimmy Kimmel for no particular reason whatsoever. They don't care. So we've got to come armed and ready to go. With facts, armed with facts. So let's make that clear before that gets cut by Media Matters. If you're bringing a knife to a gunfight, then I don't need you. If you're a Republican and you're not ready for what's coming next, if you're not ready for the all-out cultural brawl that we're going to have to deal with, if you're not ready for that, then quite frankly, get out of our way. Here's a clip of one guy who definitely is ready for it, a guy who I think may very well be the next governor of the state of New Jersey, Jack Ciattarelli. He dropped the hammer on Mikey Sherrill yesterday in their debate.
It doesn't matter because I'm going to make sure that he doesn't get to serve again when I win for governor in November of this year.
There's another big difference between her public service and my public service. It actually cost me money the time I put in and took away from my company. In the 7 years that she's been in Congress, she's tripled her net worth. There's another big difference between the two of us, okay? She broke the law. She had to pay fines for violating federal law on stock trades and stock reporting, and the New York Times reports that while you're sitting on the House Armed Services Committee, you were trading defense stocks.
So you better be ready, baby. You better be ready. Cutesy time is over, as the great Dan Bongino used to say. If you're not ready for what comes next, then get the hell out of our way. Get out of the way of the people who are ready for what comes next. I'm ready. I hope you guys are too. I also hope you guys are ready for Pete Santilli, who's coming up next right here on LFA TV. Guys, for our local audience, for the people watching, I will be at the Knights of Columbus, the Brothers of Columbus, whatever the hell it is, Italian feast on Sunday in Massapequa on Long Island. Come on down. Say hello. We're going to be registering some voters there because let me tell you something. Massapequa is where we are going to pad the numbers for people like Bruce Blakeman, where we're going to pad the numbers for people like potentially governor candidate Stefanik. That's where we're going to pad the numbers. So come on down. Give me a hand with that. Also, guys, head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. That's your home base, your mothership, your landing pad for all things LFA TV related. Check out the LFA TV store. And while you guys are there, consider becoming a monthly donor over at lfatv.us. Guys, Pete Santilli is coming up next. If you want to support this show, Loud Majority, USA.com. For the local audience, I'm going to be making a very big announcement in the coming weeks. You're not going to want to miss it. Giddy up. Let's go. I'm liking it. Santilli's up. Guys, stay loud.